Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. Today's story is about a powerful and controversial leader, Saddam Hussein, who rose from a modest, difficult childhood to become the president of Iraq. It explores his early hardships, ambitions, and decisions that shaped not only his life but the history of his nation. This story will inspire readers to reflect on how choices, determination, and leadership can impact millions of people, for better or worse. It reminds young people that every small action today can grow into something big tomorrow, and that they must use their power and dreams with wisdom and compassion. He was born under a hot, golden sun on April 28, 1937, in a small, mud-brick house in the dusty town of Al-Auja, outside Tikrit, Iraq. His name was Saddam Hussein Abdul-Majid al-Tikriti. From the day he first opened his eyes, life held both promise and danger in equal measure. His father left before he turned 1, and his mother struggled to feed her children. In those early years, Saddam learned that the world could be harsh, and that a man must find strength in himself if no one else would offer help. As a boy, Saddam walked the crooked streets of Tikrit in worn shoes. In his mind, a fire burned bright, a desire to rise, to lead, to change the fate of those around him. He watched wealthy men travel past on horses and in cars. He felt a deep longing to be more than a poor child with tattered clothes. He remembered how his mother would wake before dawn, light a small lantern, and cook a thin porridge so that her children could have something warm in their bellies. Every spoonful reminded him of the power of love and of duty. Every pang of hunger whispered that he must shape his own destiny. When he was a teenager, Saddam left Tikrit for Baghdad. The great city towered over him with marble palaces and bustling markets. He enrolled in school, eager to learn. He read books about history, about revolutions, about men who had changed the course of nations. In those pages, he saw his own reflection, a young man with fierce eyes and a restless heart. He dreamed of joining the Ba'ath Party, a new movement promising unity, freedom, and socialism for Arab people. He joined secretly at first, meeting other dreamers in dark back rooms lit by a single bulb. He learned to speak boldly, to organize, to convince others that together they could build a brighter future. By the time he was in his mid-20s, Saddam had become a rising star in the Ba'ath Party. He stood at the front of crowded halls, his voice ringing clear and firm. He spoke of pride in Iraq's history, of the need to lift the poor, to end foreign interference, to build schools and hospitals. He knew how to paint big dreams in vivid colors. Young men listened with shining eyes. They felt his energy, his promise. Even those who had nothing left to hope for believed he carried their hopes forward. Yet the road to power is never smooth. In the late 1950s and early 60s, Iraq trembled with coups and counter-coups. Saddam was there through them all, sometimes in poison-tinged meetings, sometimes plotting in hidden rooms. He learned lessons of loyalty and betrayal. He learned that trust must be earned and that power could slip away in a single night. He watched friends fall, one by one, under knives and bullets. Each time, his heart ached, but he hardened his spirit. He told himself that only if he held power firmly in his hands could he protect his people and protect himself. In July 1968, the Ba'ath Party succeeded in a bloodless coup that toppled Prime Minister Abdul Rahman Arif. The new leaders crowned Ahmed Hassan al-Bakr as president, and Saddam became his right-hand man. He was young, just 31, but already his mind churned with plans. He traveled across Iraq, greeting farmers whose hands smelled of earth, speaking to schoolgirls in crowded classrooms, promising that under Ba'ath rule, every child would learn, every family would have work, and every community would shine. The early years of Ba'ath rule were heady with change. New roads cut through the desert like silver ribbons. Oil money flowed, and foreign engineers came to build factories and power plants. Saddam oversaw many of these projects. At night, he pored over blueprints, debated budgets, called ministers to account. He felt the weight of his people's lives on his shoulders. He knew that each streetlight, each well, each clinic could mean hope for some lonely heart. For those who stood by his side, Saddam could be warm and generous. He gave gifts to party members, praised soldiers who drove him through dusty villages, and made sure that loyal officers had homes to live in. He rode horses in the desert, his tall figure framed against endless dunes. He loved horses for their strength and spirit. He said they taught him lessons about discipline and freedom. In those solitary rides, he felt a rare peace. But power can corrupt even the kindest heart. As Saddam's influence grew, he began to see enemies everywhere. He whispered to himself that only the strong survive. He created security agencies that watched citizens' every move. He launched campaigns against tribes and tribesmen he suspected of disloyalty. Tanks rolled through villages, and fear spread faster than the wind. Underneath the promises of progress, a darker reality took root. In 1979, President Bakr resigned under mysterious circumstances, and Saddam Hussein took his place. At 42, he was now the undisputed leader of Iraq. He stood on a balcony in Baghdad, his steel-nerved gaze sweeping over a sea of flags and cheering crowds. "I will serve you," he declared. "I will bring you security and dignity." Many believed him. Many were still uplifted by early victories, schools built, roads opened, literacy rising. Yet, behind the scenes, panic lurked. Ministers whispered rumors. Some of his oldest friends vanished overnight. In a state radio broadcast, Saddam read out lists of traitors. Accusations poured forth like poison. In the shadows, men disappeared. Through it all, Saddam told himself that strong measures were necessary. He believed that if the nation were united under his will, Iraq could rise above all others. He ordered the draining of marshes in the south to punish marsh Arabs who he thought betrayed him. He sent armies against Kurdish villages in the north. Chemical weapons, terrible, fiery, deadly, fell on civilian towns. The screams of children echoed in nightmares. In those moments, the boy who once dreamed of lifting the poor had grown into a man who would crush anyone who stood in his way. Emotion roiled within Saddam's breast. A deep, insistent fear gnawed at him every night. What if the soldiers turned on him? What if some unknown hand betrayed him? He recruited spies. He rewarded informants. His security forces filled grim jails. He slept with one eye open, surrounded by guards, in a palace of uneasy luxury. Then came 1980. Saddam launched a war against Iran. He believed he could seize territory, claim glory, and unite Iraqis under a banner of victory. 8 long, brutal years followed. Trenches carved the desert and marshes. Young men, boys really, marched into minefields. Families wept. Oil platforms burned like giant torches. Chemical weapons whispered death. The war turned into a grinding stalemate. By the time a fragile ceasefire fell into place in 1988, nearly 1 million lives lay shattered on both sides. Saddam emerged battered but unbowed, hailed by some as a hero, reviled by others as a butcher. In the years that followed, Iraq, strangled by debt, faced unrest at home. Saddam ruled with an iron fist. He threw lavish parties, invited foreign dignitaries, and insisted that the world respect Iraqi sovereignty. Yet, his people grew tired of fear. They longed for bread and jobs more than parades and speeches. In 1990, in a moment of grand ambition, Saddam invaded Kuwait. He believed he could break free of debt, rescue an island rich with oil, and cement his status as a great leader. Instead, an international coalition formed against him. The desert sky filled with thunderous bombs. Cities burned. Innocent lives were lost. Iraqis huddled in cellars, praying for relief. By 1991, the war ended in defeat. Saddam stood before his people, eyes blazing, denying any weakness. Yet in private, he trembled. He ordered the execution of those he blamed. He turned on his own once again. The world imposed sanctions. Food and medicine became scarce. Children grew thin with hopeless eyes. Saddam's rule turned ever darker. Still, he believed in himself. He believed that someday the world would recognize his greatness. He built statues of himself across Iraq, towering bronze images in city squares, arms outstretched like a god. He sat in his palace, surrounded by cameras, telling stories of past glories. But wherever the cameras could not reach, his people whispered stories of hunger and fear. Then came 2003. A new invasion rolled across Iraq, led by the United States and its allies. Saddam watched from his palace as bombs shook the ground. He retreated to a bunker like a wounded lion. The grand statue of himself in Baghdad's Firdos Square was toppled, a moment that shone on every television screen in the world. His world collapsed. On December 13, 2003, U.S. forces found him hiding in a dusty hole near his hometown. He emerged in pajamas, unshaven and weary. He was whisked away, the once powerful ruler now a prisoner. His trial began in Baghdad. He faced accusations of crimes against humanity. In the courtroom, he stared coldly at the judges. He defended himself with fiery speeches, refusing to show fear. But fear had already consumed him. On November 5, 2006, Saddam Hussein was executed by hanging. His final moments passed swiftly, the rope snapping his neck. He was gone. A world sighed, some with relief, others with sorrow for what Iraq had become. Yet from this story of ambition and cruelty, there remains a lesson for young people everywhere. Saddam's life shows how a child with dreams can climb to the heights of power. He shows how strong will, bold vision, and tireless work can change a nation's fate. But his life also warns of the dangers of hatred, of fear, and of sacrificing others for ambition. His story reminds us that true leadership must be rooted in compassion, in listening to the weak, and in seeking justice, not revenge. Imagine standing at the threshold of your own future. You face choices every day: to lift a friend in need or to turn away, to speak out against injustice or to remain silent, to dream of greatness or to let fear hold you back. Saddam Hussein chose a path of power and pride, but it led to bloodshed and fear. For you, the lesson is clear. Use your energy to build, not to destroy, to serve, not to dominate, to inspire, not to intimidate. Today, children in Tikrit play among dusty streets that Saddam once walked. They hope for schools where they can learn and for playgrounds where they can laugh. They may not know the full story of the man who was born in their town, who rose to hold the world's attention, and who fell under the weight of his own choices. But your generation can learn from his tale. You can choose a different path, one of empathy, of cooperation, of humble service. Let his life remind you that power is not an end in itself. Power only has meaning if it brings light into someone's life, if it helps a sick child, if it lifts a hungry family, if it unites people rather than divides them. Let his rise inspire your own courage, but let his fall admonish your heart. You are the architects of tomorrow. Lay your foundations on kindness, on wisdom, and on unwavering respect for every human being. As you walk forward, remember the boy from Al-Aja who dreamed of greatness. Let that spark ignite your own dreams, but hold tight to compassion and humility. Let your story be one not of fear and force, but of hope and healing. In that choice lies the true power that can change the world for the better.